Thanks for tuning into the Three Circles Living podcast, where you can learn how to improve your life, no matter if you want to accelerate your professional career, thrive in your relationships, personal relationships, be healthier, or find fulfillment in all the ways. This is definitely the podcast for you. Make sure to share it and leave us a comment with the nugget that you found most valuable. That really helps us, and we just want to see it. We want to see what you take away from this.
Plus,
So,
we got some great feedback on the last one.
yeah, it went deep. The last one, we talked all about limiting beliefs and belief system and all the things, how to be able to overcome it and really rewire yourself and your mind, because we always try to set ourselves up and get deep into a rabbit hole that we really don't need to be in.
No,
So,
a rabbit hole of our own digging,
yes,
but we all
yes,
do it. So, this isn't to say you shouldn't do it. It's we're going to do it. We all do it. We're humans. It's part of
yes.
the
It,
experience.
it is normal. It is normal. Just it's good to have the tools to get yourself out of it. That's the most important part, and to focus on that. And today we're also going to focus a little bit more on how you can do that, with a big topic about gratitude and
Mhm.
growth, and really that perspective of how you fuel your mental wellness. So let's just dive right in, because I love this. I didn't think I would, in my younger years, but it's been a big game changer for me, and I know it has been for you as well. And I know you have a practice around it, so I would love you to share some of that, because it has really impacted my life, and can then follow up with a few things.
Happy, happy to share whatever you would like me to share, whatever might come out of my skull here in these few minutes.
Let's go.
I will say this. It's really, really difficult to be negative when you're grateful.
Mm,
It's almost impossible in the same moment. It's very difficult to have anxiety and gratitude in the same moment. That doesn't mean you can't have one right after the other or one before the other, right? Because again, we're human, but this is such a profoundly important thing. It's why there's books written on it, and anyone you read who's evolved, who is personal development oriented or growth mindset oriented, they're going to touch this topic because it's so missing. Right? I mean,
hmm
we actually live in an age where entitlement is rampant. That's like the opposite of gratitude. It's like expecting the world to give you something when you already have so much that we don't even necessarily think about or reflect on. And it if you think about being grateful for what you have and what you are and for the opportunities you have while you're pursuing what you want to do, be, and have. That's a really important blend. It's that you should be striving, right? We're not meant to sit in one place, right? There's an ancient tribal curse that says, may you stay in one place forever.
mm
That would be absolutely horrible. And I think everybody could recognize that. But it speaks to the soul of us that we're meant to continuously grow to the point where we're gone. That's really the reality of it. So it's not to be complacent or um, content or settled from a permanent state. It's to be grateful and thankful for all that you have while you continue to move forward. And it becomes this ever evolving, literally higher platform that you get to stand on as you go through life, which is that's sort of how I look at it.
I like that. It's not, I want to say that. I want to come back, because that all makes sense, perfect sense. And I love it that it sounds so simple to do, but it's not very simple to do necessarily. And I feel like we talked about that in a previous episode too. It's like we're bombarded with everything, because we see so and so does this, and you compare yourself and you think like, oh, I deserve this. Like, why don't I have that? Or when for me, it was always like, other people get things handed to them, but it's not true because it comes with a whole lot of other issues that we don't need to go down right now, that rabbit hole. But um, so it's always like for me, very important, like come back to yourself, right? Start with yourself, take everything outside away from it. And like you said, what can you be grateful for right now? Don't think about the big things because you have big goals. I have big goals. I'm very ambitious and I'm far from a lot of these big goals right now. Um, but what do I have? What do I have accomplished? And it's almost like the same thing with being present, really seeing, being conscious of what is around you, what you do every day. Because I think you said it in the book, and I love that. Like you should be grateful for your big toe. Like if you stub your toe, like that is a whole other issue. And I actually had a friend who broke her little toe and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot walk. Like this is impossible. Like this is such an adjustment." And I feel like we forget about those things, those little things in quotation marks that actually are the big things in our life and not the having a thriving business or earning $1 million or whatever else it might be of those monetary goals that everybody or the shiny objects everybody goes after. Like,
Yeah, it's
it,
not even just you mentioned the word accomplishment, which we
Mhm.
touched on in the success conversation, I think in the last Zoom.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's really if you're grateful for the experience you get in the moment and what you have to work with, right? And Chris, you pointed it out, it's really easy to get caught up in the highlight reel of the world, right? I mean, social media is a highlight reel. It's either a highlight reel or it's a misery reel. It's one of the two, right? There's almost no middle ground
Yeah.
in that world, and people are bombarded with that imagery. But you also have it in all the commercial exposure, and everything is designed for you to feel like your life is inadequate. If you don't have enough of the right things, you don't have the best things, you don't have the right things inside of you, right? You're not going to look like the supermodel, you're not going to run like the Olympic sprinter. I mean, it's just it's so crazy, when we're all uniquely blessed. And so gratitude is a practice. The really cool thing about it is it's a practice. Yet you're not going to immediately think that way unless you are purposeful. And in order to be purposeful, you almost have to step back. It's always that mindset has to come before skill set. Why is it important? Why is it important to be grateful? Why is it important to express gratitude? Right. So every morning when I get up, the first thing I do, well, is let the dog out. I let the dog out and I take my first set of vitamins and I make my coffee and I sit on the front porch and listen to the river wake up. And I express gratitude. That's the first thing that I do. I reflect gratitude and I reflect gratitude for really major stuff like my health and my family and the opportunity I get to do the work that I do and the resources that I'm blessed with and the environment I get to live in. And I mean, if I made a point of expressing every single thing I was grateful for, it'd be impossible to do because just like Chris just talked about the big toe, right? How would you feel if you didn't, if your big toe didn't work anymore? I could tell you, you'd be like, you wouldn't be very happy, but you could extrapolate that into practically every part of your body, right? I mean, and if you're born in a developed nation, do you realize how fortunate you are to be born in a developed nation and to have opportunity to actualize? There are places in the world that's not present. You are suppressed not just from a vibration perspective, which we all get that, but you're suppressed from an opportunity. You can't express certain things, you can't do certain things, you're not allowed to rise in a certain way, you're not allowed to shine regardless of who you are, right? There's so many things that you can be grateful for. But again, we are conditioned to focus on what we're not, what we don't have, what we're not like, what we're missing. And so the focus is wrong. And so the power of making it a practice. First, the thing is you are setting the tone. You're coming from a place of, wow, life is actually good, no matter what my struggles are, right? No matter what my struggles are, I'm fortunate to have my struggles. And that's something to even consider about things that we think are problems. There are billions, and that's not an exaggeration, billions of people in the world who would change their problems for ours in a heartbeat. They'd be like, oh, please let me have your problems. Let me have your struggles. That's, but again, we're not conditioned to think that way. So you can make gratitude an intentional practice. And I believe first thing in the morning is important. But then going back to being present, right? It's unbelievable if you will watch and observe what's going on around you instead of, having your face glued in your phone every spare second that you have, and just appreciate the bird that just flew by you, right? Or the sky, or there's so much that can uplift you if you will be in the moment, because really life is only in this moment. You're not guaranteed the next moment, right? You're not. You get it. If you get it, then it's something to be grateful for. But who thinks that way, right? We think we're entitled to this or that. We're not. We're not entitled to anything. We're fortunate to have what we have. And I'm going to throw this one out because this is a little bit of a mind bender, but the older you get, and I can obviously attest to this, right? The more you recognize that your struggles and difficulties and really hard things you've gone through in your life, they were for your benefit. They might have sucked in the moment, but they were for your benefit. I mean, wow, can you imagine being able to get grateful in your struggle, that you even get to struggle, that you get to try to write it? Because, I mean, really, life is seasonal, right? Your hardest periods don't last, just like your greatest, funnest, most exciting periods don't last either, right? Everything just kind of loops and it's all of value. But if you could zoom yourself out of every situation you're in and try to look at it from 10,000 feet and the span of years, you'd recognize this thing that feels horrible is not going to be much in a period of time. And heck, be grateful for the fact that the way we are built as human beings are, we can't relive pain in the same way we experience it the first time. We can joy a little bit, but we can't pain, right? I mean, I believe that if we could relive pain, no woman would ever have a baby more than once, right? And actually, most women would be like, don't do it, right? Of course, you have to have that pain to have the joy of a child, which then brings its own pain and joy, right? It's the same kind of thing. You have to be grateful for all of it. It's what makes the experience of life.
It makes it all. Oh my gosh. You said so much. First of all, yes, it's a practice. It's an ongoing practice. It's not a one thing and done. I'm going to be grateful today, and then it's just going to be ingrained in me and it's fine. It's working. No, that doesn't happen just because we all encounter stuff. We all have struggles and problems that come up. And I'm the first one to say it. I have a few examples that I could bring up here, but the biggest thing is like looking back. Yes, in the moment, those were really hard to go through because it's usually something that you have never encountered before, and you have no idea what you do, who who to ask for help or anything. Like it's something new, right? So it's hard. But hindsight, it's like it's the best things that happened to me, even though was the worst thing in that moment. And like in general, like it was not good things, but it made me a different person. Things that helped me to be more independent. That I was not a very independent child. I was a second child that was spoiled with everything. So I never had to do anything. I never had to figure out anything for myself. And now I'm like, yeah, whatever. You know, I can live on my own in the wilderness. I don't care. Like I'll figure it out. That gives you that, even if you don't know, it gives you that strength. right? But with gratitude and that practice, it's like you said, there are different, I think, exercises that I want to talk a little bit more about what people can do. And I want to share one that has really impacted me that I didn't think it would. Yes, you can think about things that you're grateful for. Take that moment, be present first when you wake up. You can do it when you go to bed at night. That's also impactful because then your brain is like thinking about it and then you wake up differently. Like I've done that before. And you can write it down, you can think about it, you can say them out loud, like all of the things, whatever fits you the best. That's important. It's not what we say or what works for us, but what fits in your life. And a really powerful exercise that I don't know why I just recently discovered that, but I go for walks and I say things out loud that I'm grateful for a certain period of time, like for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, until I go to the stop sign, whatever it might be, what I set for myself. And that is like, I'm not a morning person, but that helps me to become a morning person in the morning because it resets myself and resets the focus. And I think that's the important part because one of the things too, you might say, oh, be present. It's hard to be present because we get all of the things. And I'm also tend to be more ADHD and all over the place. So present is very hard for me and I need to do things. As you see, I'm constantly talking with my hands. I'm constantly moving. Like I need to do stuff. I cannot sit still. But so being present is hard, but when you focus on the gratitude, it helps you to refocus and actually see what's important and almost also calms your body, calms your energy, right? And really sets you up. So no matter like I work a very demanding job where I have to deal with a lot of different personalities and people and all over the place. And there are hard conversations that I have to have every day. But looking at the gratitude practice, it sets me up for the day so I can have them. And then it helps me also to have better conversations with these people. So it affects everything as well. Like we've been talking about all of this for the last episodes, like in depth, but I promise you it's those, again, simple in quotation marks, things that will help you reframe things, restructure your life, and have a big impact that, yes, you might not see tomorrow or the next week, but when you look at it, it's life-changing.
No question, right? So you just spoke a lot to the impact it has on your attitude.
Hmm.
Just that piece, right? And your attitude isn't just for you, right? Your attitude touches and affects everybody you touch. It affects everyone in your household. It affects everyone in your work. It everywhere you go, you're like you're touching people with your attitude. And so when you come from a place of gratitude, right, the attitude of gratitude, so to speak, you are just lifted. You are operating at a higher energy that feels good for other people to be around. And it sets the tone for an abundance mentality as opposed to a scarcity mentality, right? So when you focus on what you don't have, almost as if there's not enough of that out there for you to have it, right? That's a scarcity mentality. And anyone who operates in a scarcity mentality is they're not going to have a very good vibration around anybody. But an abundance mentality, like there's plenty for everyone, which there is comes out of gratitude. And that's another, these things affect you massively in the work that you do. For example, you get around people who have a positive, kind of grateful spirit, they're attractive people to be around. They feel good to be in the company of. They're more likely to help you and want to share with you and encourage you. And but when you find people that are think the opposite way, right? They think life is like everything is finite and that there's not enough and that everybody's, that their mentality is that things aren't good enough, right?
Mhm.
That's the place they come from. That's what spills out. So it's such a huge thing which is why we've spent multiple episodes on this mental area, and we're not done. We have much more to do,
Yes.
but because that's going to affect how you show up everywhere, which is going, you can't live a successful life, whatever you define that as, with a bad attitude. Those two things they don't live in the same world. And the other thing that I would encourage people to do, and you won't ever be able to make this list complete, is make a true gratitude list.
Hmm.
Just do 100, do 100 things. I mean, you could probably do 110 minutes if you really like just went at it, but you could never run out of stuff to do, because if you just think of the world around you and the people around you and the resources that you have and all of your own little uniqueness, right? What of those things would you prefer not to have? What would you like to be removed? Right? I mean, think about it in that terms. If you have a hard time thinking abundantly, then think about what it would be like to all of a sudden not have certain things that you take for granted every single day. You just take for granted that
Hmm.
everything works properly, that everywhere you go, right, that you have this or you have access to this. What if you didn't? Right? That would be an entirely different thing. What if you lost it all and didn't have it for a couple of days? And anything, this could be anything, and then all of a sudden you got it back. How would you feel? Right? That's the this kind of stuff really can, like, it can just blow up your thinking and open your brain completely up.
To anything that you touch, anything that you touch, any person you touch, everything. It makes your life easier because two things especially when you talk to other people, with your job or relationships or with anything else, when you have that attitude of gratitude and you come in with a different energy, you might think before, if you had focused on the worry because you had a difficult conversation ahead of you, but if you come in with that new attitude, that might dissolve because the other person is feeding off of your energy, feeding off of what you're saying. You say things differently. They might make more sense now, or things will calm down more than you know. Um, and so the other exercise too, like with that, to build on that with writing down or having this, what I started doing is every day I find one good thing of the day, right? Do one good thing. Start with that. I know you can have thousands at some point, but to start with, find one good thing, especially if you're in the trenches, if you're working, if you have a family, if you have kids and you're like, they have temper tantrums, your boss has a temper tantrum, and everything is just escalating, nothing is working out. Sit down and find one. And I promise you, when you focus on that one thing, everything else doesn't feel heavy anymore. You're like, ah, yeah, it's fine. This one thing is the good thing.
No,
Um,
that's a really that's good. That's good, Chris. That's so there's three things, right? One, sit down in the morning, first thing, and reflect gratitude, right? Because that gives you the experience of abundance. And experience of abundance makes you a better giver, bottom
mm,
line. And the way that you build a great life is by giving, not by getting. You get what you reap what you sow, right? And so the more that you give, the more it will come back to you. Might not be in the moment, but it tends to work out that way in the universe. So do it in the morning, first thing. Make a gratitude list so you can get really clear on just how daggone blessed you actually are. And then use Chris's one good thing. Start with one and build on that.
it will get easier. And share that with us. I would love to see like one thing you're grateful for right now as you're listening to us. Write it in the comments. Share it with us. We would love to hear it.
Good idea. All right. I hope that was good.
Awesome.
Huh? Think that was helpful?
Hopefully, again, give us your feedback, but it has changed our lives, that's for sure. And we will continue to talk about that. But we will also continue to talk about mental health in the next episode and talking about intellectual health, spiritual health, so it's a little bit more in all of the things. So come back, there is more, and we're here by your side. Thank you for listening.
See you next time.